Good evening. The world news from BGI TV Currents. Buhari approves appointment of 6 federal PAM secretaries. Buhari regime begs island for assistance on internal security. FG begins registration of medical laboratories. And coming from sport, Inter Milan defender D'Ambrosio labels Osimhen great striker. Now the news in detail. President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the appointment of 6 new federal permanent secretaries in the Federal Civil Service. The head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Dr. Folashade Yemi Eson, made this known in Abuja, saying the appointment came following a recently conducted selection process. She said the appointment and appointed permanent secretaries include Mahmoud Adam Kamberi Borno, Eswabana Iko Asai Cross River, Lamwa Adamu Ibrahim Gombe, Yakubu Adam Kofer Mata Kanu, Olorutola Olufemi Michael Ogun, Richard P. Filangwa Taraba. The statement explained that the date for the swearing-in and deployment of the new appointees will be announced in due course. Going on to the next story, still from the presidency. Interior Minister Rauf Aregbesola has sought island cooperation on internal security in Nigeria. This is contained in a statement by the ministry spokesperson Afonja Ajibola on Wednesday in Abuja. The minister made a request when the Irish ambassador to Nigeria, Peter Ryan, paid him a courtesy call in Abuja. Mr. Aregbesola said because of the ministry's desire to strengthen internal security, he felt the need to establish the National Institute for Domestic Security in the country. The minister added that the proposed institute would be a training ground for top-notch security officers. Therefore, he solicited the Irish government's support in realizing the project, which he said was dear to him as a minister. To the next story. The federal government on Wednesday began an online registration of medical laboratories in Nigeria to enhance service delivery. Dr. Tosin Ehabo, the registrar of the Medical and Laboratory Science Council of Nigeria, made this known in Abuja at a meeting with stakeholders and the agency's consultant on automation led by Professor Effiong Akpan of the University of Calabar. He called on stakeholders to avail themselves of the great opportunities offered by the new framework to enhance service delivery. Enrabo said that the registration would scale up efficiency, effectiveness, transparency, speed of service delivery, as well as data collection and management. He said that the purpose of the meeting was to enable stakeholders witness firsthand and possibly critique the ongoing digitalization of the medical laboratory registration process. Going on to the next story. The chairman of Inter-Party Advisory Council, Alhaji Yabayi Sani, has ordered the Department of State Services (DSS) to arrest those that it claims are plotting an interim government. Sani stated this during an interview on Channels TV Politics Today. The DSS has said on Wednesday that some key political players were plotting to foist an interim government in Nigeria. The department added that the politicians had obtained frivolous court injunctions to forestall the inauguration of new executive administration and legislative houses at the federal and state levels. In case you're just joining, you are watching the world news from BGI TV Current. Next to come. The Lagos State government on Thursday arraigned Chrisland School, Okpebi, its principal, vice principal, and 2 employees over the death of one of the school's pupils, 12-year-old Whitney Adeniro. The school workers who were arraigned before Justice Oyindamola Ogala of the Lagos State High Court in Ikeja include Ademoye Adewale Kuku Fatai, Mrs. Belinda Amao, Nwatu Ugochi Victoria, and Chrisland School Limited. The defendants were arraigned on 2-count charges bordering on involuntary manslaughter, reckless and negligence acts preferred against them by the state. While in the dock, the school principal, Mrs. Belinda Amao, broke down in tears as the court and council tried to agree on a date for the commencement of the trial. The next story. Suspected herdsmen on Thursday morning allegedly invaded one of the public secondary schools in Oyo State, injuring students and teachers. Information reliably learned that the herders invaded the community grammar school Alaropo Inla in the Orire local government area of the state. The herdsmen, according to an eyewitness account numbering over 20, allegedly invaded the school with their cattle and injured some of the students and teachers. Some of the students and their teachers, among whom are Mr. Paul Olabode, were inflicted with sword and machete cuts, while many others were left with broken legs and hands. The source disclosed that the school had just finished morning devotion and students were preparing to settle down in their classrooms to continue their second-term examination when the herdsmen invaded the school farm with their cows grazing mindlessly on crops. From Oyo State, we'll go to the next story in Lagos. There was a fire outbreak Thursday morning at the Olowu Spare Part Market in Lagos State. Some shops engulfed by an inferno contained air conditioners for sales, parts of vehicles and motorcycles, among others. The traders count their losses as the goods lost to the fire are worth millions of naira. The men of the Lagos State Fire Service and security operatives are at the scene as at the time of filing this report, which the situation is under control. A similar incident occurred 3 weeks after Akere Spare Parts Market on Kirikiri Road, Olodi Papa in Ajegunle went up in flames. From that story in Lagos, we go straight to the foreign story. The United States Vice President Kamala Harris has announced to disburse more than $1 billion as an initiative to improve women's economic empowerment in Africa. Harris unveiled the project on Wednesday at the end of the first leg of a three-nation trip to African continent. Harris' office revealed the program, a mixture of U.S. government funding and private sector commitments, while in Ghana, where she visited before traveling to Tanzania and Zambia. The tour follows up on a December summit held by President Joe Biden in Washington with African leaders as the U.S. seeks to balance the growth and growing influence of China and Russia on the continent. Harris has already announced $139 million in development and cultural assistance for Ghana and $100 million investment in stability and peace building for coastal West African nations who face the threat of jihadist violence spilling over from the Sahel. And in the world news this hour is the sports story. Inter Milan defender Danilo D'Ambrosio has described Victor Osimhen as a great striker. Osimhen has been in superb form for Serie A leaders Napoli this season so far. The 24-year-old has scored 25 goals and registered 4 assists in 29 games across all competitions for the Spentinopi this season. The Nigerian international has earned plaudits for his exemplary displays, and D'Ambrosio has joined the list of praise singers. Great striker, he has hunger, desire, he never stops. For defenders, it makes you uncomfortable, D'Ambrosio told Tøùgh. Napoli have garnered 71 points after 27 Serie A games this season. That ends the world news from BGI TV Current. Before we go, some major headlines. Buhari approves appointment of 6 permanent secretaries. Buhari regime begs island for assistance on internal security. We also brought to you, FG begins registration of medical laboratories. And finally, on sports, Inter Milan defender labels Osimhen great striker. For more updates of our broadcast on YouTube, the handle is BGI TV Current. Kindly subscribe and click on the notification bell, select option all to access our broadcast. On Facebook, Bagede Imo with Alawiye Adebayo. Please like and follow the page. For advert placements of your goods and services, coverage of events and functions, please dial the phone number streaming on your screen for advert placements only. Thank you for watching. I am Morire Rebila Lawa. Good evening.
Oh, na na na. If you want to know what's going on in city, or you want to listen to the latest news and gist. No stress, oh, just tune to BGI TV. BGI TV, you're one in a million.